It's not over. You know it's not over. Welcome to Throwback Thursday on the lunch break, powered by JM&E and also the BS3 network. If you have a Roku streaming device, just download BS3 TV. If not, just go to bs3network.com. You know me by now if you're regular to the lunch break. I am not AJ Jones. I am Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review. How y'all doing out there? AJ still under the weather a little bit. So I'm filling in for him again, once again, on Throwback Thursday on the lunch break. He's on the mend, shall we say. Should have a full packed show this hour of the lunch break on BS3 Network. Andy Yanez should be joining us soon. Kennetra Pulliams as well should be joining us. And then at the bottom of the hour, Willie Gibson also should be joining us as well here on the lunch break. But you got me right now. Tony M., how are you doing? Thank you for chiming in. Thank you for participating on the show here on YouTube. The show is also available on the BS3 network. Well, since Kennetra hasn't joined yet and Andy's a few minutes away, I'm going to talk about the Rockets and their 12-game losing streak. Reached number 12 last night in a 5-point loss to the also woeful Charlotte Hornets. Final score 122-117. Alperen Sengun, 24 points, 12 boards, 6 assists for the Rockets. Jalen Green scored 41. LP said during the post game, the things we do early in the game, we don't do at the end of the game. That's one reason why the Rockets have lost 12 in a row. LP believes they're going to figure it out eventually, and once they figure it out, they will start winning games again. But fans are frustrated. Players are frustrated. Jalen Green said in the locker room last night he's frustrated. So, and why wouldn't he be? I want him to be frustrated. Do not settle. Do not accept losing. Losing is just part of the process. It stinks. It sucks to lose. It's all about getting better, learning from your mistakes, learning how to win games, close out, and get the job done. But 12 games in a row, 12 L's in a row is not good. Y'all know it. Tillman knows it. The players know it. Steven Silas knows it. Rafael Stone knows it. Fans tuning in right now on the lunch break, how can you fix it? What needs to be done to fix it? I'm not sure firing Steven Silas right now will fix it. I think trading Eric Gordon would help. It would be a start because he doesn't want to be here, clearly. Rafael, memo to you, Rafael. Just take what you can get for Eric Gordon. Stop dreaming about getting a first-round pick for Eric Gordon. That ship has sailed and probably sunk. But just get what you can for Eric Gordon. It's a second-round pick in 2024, 25, 26, 27, 28, 2050, whatever it is. Just trade Eric Gordon. And she's laughing, and I hope she can hear me. That means she can hear me. So good. I'm going to bring in Kennetra Pulliams to join me. How are you, Kennetra?
I'm good, Kris. How are you?
I'm doing great. 2050 might be too far in the future to get a pick in return for Eric Gordon, but you get.
But it makes your point.
Yeah. I know you covered Kansas Jayhawks for Big 12 now on ESPN Plus. And I already know the answer to this question, but I'm going to be facetious when I ask it. Have the Jayhawk fans recovered from losing to Kent State a few days ago? Are they in mourning? Are they weeping? Or grinding their teeth? What's going on?
No, I mean, yes, it was a tough loss. First conference loss, for KU. But the fact that these two teams will play each other again in 2 weeks at Allen Fieldhouse, the fan, they're not jumping ship. They're not. The sky is not falling. Yeah, you never want to lose a conference game. You never want to lose to your in-state rival. But the fact that it was a really, if you're a basketball fan, it was a really great game. Yeah, depending on who you're rooting for, which colors you're wearing, will affect how you view the game. They'll say, the refs were against KU. There were a lot of blown calls. The fact that KU had 3 starters foul out of the game. So it was really tough because KU's bench has been up and down all year. And so having to rely on that bench to produce is something that, is tough because they haven't been in those roles. When you have 3 guys, as Bill Self said, in the game at game point, who had never been in that scenario before, it's hard to gauge how they're going to react. But Jalen Wilson literally carried the team with a career high in points. But you need somebody else to step up to complement him. And when Kevin McCullough, one of your other starters, gives you 0 points, gives you 7 rebounds, yes, but he fouls out of the game. Who else is there? KJ Adams, who has a string of, I think, 12 consecutive games in double figure points. He fouls out.
Mm-hmm.
Grady Dick, who could possibly be freshman of the year in the Big 12, he fouls out.
Mm-hmm.
So, so it's really tough that you're asking, seldom use, Zach Clements to come in and to contribute. And then also to consider is that starting point guard, DeJuan Harris Jr., had a collision and he bumped his head, had to leave the court, went to the locker room for a couple of minutes. And I have to wonder if there were any lingering effects, just as far as mental sharpness, because he did turn the ball over at the end of overtime
Mm-hmm.
and allowed K-State to run out the clock. And you just have to wonder, was he as sharp as he could have been? Oops. There we go.
I ask you, is there a concern that Jalen Wilson is playing so many minutes?
Not right now, because Bill Self said in order for KU to reach its ceiling, Jalen Wilson has to be an All-American. Well, he's playing like that right now.
Right.
But yes, Bill Self has stressed the need for complementary play for the bench. Somebody has to come in, and you really haven't found a reliable, consistent backup big man behind KJ Adams. KJ's a stretch 4. He's not a 5. He's essentially really a point forward. He's an exceptional passer, very athletic, relying on his lacrosse background. So he can compensate for his lack of size, both from a height standpoint and as far as build, to use his body to get the angles to make the rebounds to extend possessions. There was a stretch there against K-State where he scored 8 straight points for KU, as KU was down double digits in the first half. But there's that right there is this trend that maybe KU wants to fix. The fact that entering the K-State game, in 4 of the 5 conference games, the Jayhawks have trailed by double digits and have had to come back to win. It happened again against K-State. But having to fight so hard to get back to tie the game and to take a lead takes a lot out of you.
Right.
So if KU can play from the opening tip and create their own energy, that might serve them better.
And I'm gonna contrast that what you said about being behind by double digits for the last 5. The Houston Cougars have led at halftime in every game they played this year.
Okay.
All 19 games, so they've never trailed at halftime. So they're not really used to coming from behind. The Bama game, they had a big lead second half, or early second half, and then Alabama walked them down and eventually won that game. So it's just a contrast of could be conference play, competition, level competition. I get that, but just a matter of fact, the Cougars have not trailed in any game so far this season, whereas KU the last 5, they've been down by double figures. Not just been behind, but by double figures.
Double figures, yeah.
So that does take a toll. So a reminder, we're going to take this quick break. I am Kris Gardner. Joining me is Kennetra Pulliams. She's so nice and so smart to join me. We are talking on the lunch break here on Throwback Thursday for AJ Jones, who is getting better. According to his doctor, he's halfway there. He's just not there yet. So he asked us to fill in today. And of course, we were more than happy to do so. So take this quick break. for lunch break on Throwback Thursday on the BS3 Network.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.
Welcome back to Throwback Thursday on the lunch break, powered by JM&E, and also on the BS3 Network. Joining us with his cap on,
that's
because
for a very specific reason.
Kelvin Sampson, head coach Kelvin Sampson, called out Andy Yanez not too long ago during his weekly media session call.
Wait, I need to hear the details.
I need a haircut.
That's it. Go ahead, Andy.
That's the long story short of it. That's pretty much it.
Kelvin didn't like the hat?
Oh, no, he didn't have a hat on. Take off your hat. Take off your cap, Andy. Go ahead.
I like the curls.
It's much more tame than it was during the Zoom call. But
so Coach Sampson, he made a point to say, Andy, because Andy was leading into his coach, it's like, what's up with your hair, Andy? Andy's like, Coach, I'm going to get a haircut soon. Well, there are ways to, remedy that. He's like, well, you can wear a cap. So Andy put on a cap.
Very specific reason.
Yeah. So it's all good. So for folks who are new to the lunch break, Andy Yanez is joining us, and Andy's from Gallery Sports. He's part of Let's Rage Cougs, our post-game show where we discuss the Cougs, the unofficial post-game show for Houston Cougars football and men's basketball, and also part of the Folks Talking Sports crew, where we talk sports on Sundays with Willie Gibson, who should be joining us in about 15 or 20 minutes. So it's going to be a full house here on the lunch break, powered by JM&E on the BS3 Network. And if you have a Roku streaming device, just download BS3 TV. If not, go to bs3network.com. So once again, Andy Yanez, we are on Roku TV right now, and hopefully at some point this year, we might be, as in Folks Talking Sports, or heck, Let's Rage Cougs might be part of the BS3 family as well. Andy,
wait, Kris or Andy, can y'all shake your magic 8-ball, and do y'all have any insight on when the Big 12 football schedule is going to be released for next season?
No.
Let's talk about that right now.
Your guess is as good as mine, because according to the UCF AD, he backpedaled in it almost immediately. It was supposed to come out 2 days ago. This is coming Tuesday, January 17th. Going back to when Brett Yormark was on campus not too long ago. Well, in September, there was noise that the schedule was going to release late November, early December. Then Houston head coach Dana Holgorsen said apparently he had already taken a look at the schedule. He said, you guys aren't going to wait till that schedule comes out. It's going to be he kept hyping it up how tough the schedule was going to be.
Right.
And then it was supposed to be sometime in December, got pushed back. Then, maybe early January, got pushed back. And it just continues to get pushed back. And it's not entirely – there's no specific reason as to why it has not been released yet.
Because, I thought maybe, end of the football regular season, they'd release it kind of before bowl season. And then, so TCU's in college football playoff. So maybe after the championship game, early January, and then here we are. And I mean, and the thing is the fact that signing day is happening in 2 weeks. So like after that, before March Madness, I mean, like when do we find out?
Well, and Kennetra, you were there. We were there at the Big 12 basketball tip-off, and Commissioner Yormark said then that he expected it to be in November, late November or early December. And then Andy went to the rest of the timeline. Well, we're past January 17th, as A.D. Mohair said. I think Joseph Duarte from Chronicle Colleague also said it should be out by now. It's not out. Commissioner Yormark, he swears to us, well, he didn't swear to us, but he says that the delay has nothing to do with negotiations between the conference and Texas and Oklahoma. Early exit. Right. Okay, Brett. Yes, sure. Right. If you want us to believe that.
If you insist it's not that, then what is it?
And what is it? Yes, what else could it be? What do you think it is, Kennetra? Let's go around the
that's what I think it is. Just trying to figure out, instead of 2025, negotiating a buyout for Texas and OU. I mean, yeah, it takes a little configuration to work in a schedule for you. Have now 4 other teams. Simple math. You're losing 2, you're adding 4, but then the timeline of when those 2 depart, when the 4 are coming in. So now you're trying to figure out, okay, because trying to get from Morgantown to Provo or Orlando to Provo, that takes some logistic planning. But
yes,
I'm sure all of the director of operations for the respective conference partner football programs would like to know as soon as possible so that they can make travel arrangements.
And what do you think it is?
If it's not Texas and OU, that's the head scratcher. And what's even more head scratching about it is that it seemed like they had a schedule in place, because I don't think Dana Holgorsen was just rattling off what the schedule was going to be like out of nothing. I think he had something that was resembling a conference schedule, and then it seemed like there was agreement that it was going to get released, and then it just seems like in the last month plus there's been a shift. I don't know if it's they have to make last minute changes. Which again, if it's not Texas and OU, what could you factor it in? It's so odd. It's so weird.
It is odd, and I'm going to switch up what we did from last Thursday. I'm going to play a quick commercial break here. It's a little different because I want Kennetra to see this commercial here on the lunch break, powered by JM&E on the BS3 network. Be right back.
Alicia.
You can't hold somebody to that standard if you haven't voiced what you want and what you're needing from that.
Mika.
If you're not communicating expectations, you're waiting for your feelings to be hurt.
Nicole.
Yeah. A lot of people don't want to take the time out to be alone and to get themselves together.
Ivan.
You got to be willing to work through stuff. And from the jump street, y'all done had problems. Maybe you don't need to be working through those.
BS3 Network proudly presents Queen 3 and King podcast, live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central.
What do you think about that, Kennetra?
Bring it on. I like it.
It's. I think AJ's been a guest on there. And I'm intrigued to watch it. I'm afraid to be on it because I'm afraid is the wrong word. I'm curious to talk with 3 sisters who probably put me in my place if I step out of line. But, it's all part of being on the show as well. So
I think you can hold your own.
Thank you, Kennetra. See, I knew I liked you. I knew, yes. All right. But once again, you're watching Throwback Thursday, the lunch break on Throwback Thursdays, powered by JM&E on the BS3 network. I'm Kris Gardner, co-hosting with Kennetra Pulliams. We are co-hosting for AJ Jones, who is still under the weather just a little bit. He is getting better. He is on the mend, but not quite healthy enough just yet. And Andy Yanez and his ball cap on backwards to protect his hair is also joining us. Andy is from Gallery Sports. Andy was in New Orleans for the Houston Cougars game at Tulane. And let me say this to both of you. Because Andy, I don't know if you heard about it, because you were at the game, but ESPN Plus had technical issues.
Yeah.
First 5-10 minutes of the game, and I want to say it was not just the Cougs Tulane broadcast. It was like seemed like to be a platform issue. So the screen was scrambled and all those things. Kennetra, could you fix that?
Nope. It's above my pay grade.
So
but it's not. It is not an isolated incident. It's not somebody who kind of is anti-coup or the green wave. I don't. It has happened to other ESPN Plus broadcasts. So don't think that you're alone in what happened. And there's really no reason why the glitches happen. It's just it's kind of like Dallas Cowboys kicker Brett Maher, just a case of the yips. So the broadcast had a case of the yips, and it gets pixelated, and I'm sure the engineers are scrambling, trying to fix the transmission issues and get it back online.
I like that. That's a good word. Good choice of words. Pixelated, because that's what it was. It was all over the place right there. But while they had issues with the pixelation, I was watching Kansas and K-State. So I was good. I was happy with it either way. But Andy, what were your thoughts on the game while you were there in New Orleans watching the Cougs and Tulane?
Well, I think the first thing that stood out had to be the crowd, the atmosphere, the New Orleans crowd that came out and showed out in Tulane. That's something that we touched on during our Let's Rage Cougs postgame show, where Ron Hunter was talking about that's the most media he had seen since he had taken over the program. Going back to the day before they played Houston, he said there was local media going to watch their practice, and he joked. He said, I was about to call the athletic director to make sure I hadn't been fired or anything like that. But there was lines from the student section, something that Houston head coach Kelvin Sampson said during his radio show last night as well. Whenever they were pulling up to the arena, the students were already waiting to enter the Devlin Fieldhouse. That's how much anticipation there was for this matchup. The atmosphere was great. The student section was loud. They were jam-packed an hour before tip-off. And then talking about the game in and of itself, I think, again, what Houston showed, and give credit to Tulane when they went on that 11-1 run. They had cut it to 5. The whole place was rocking. But then Houston, again, kind of found that extra gear that it's had, certainly in conference play, with a few exceptions against UCF and USF, where those two teams were able to hang around. But it always seems like, at least during conference play so far, 6 games in for Houston, that those teams, I mean, yeah, they'll have runs. Cincinnati had a good run. Tulane on Tuesday did. But then Houston was just able to find that gear, and they have so many weapons. Marcus Sasser caught fire in the second half. He had 17 of his 23 points in the second half. But in the first half, who were the two players that kind of held Houston afloat? Certainly to start the game was Juwan Roberts and Tremont Mark. Jamal Shedd had double-digit scoring as well. And obviously, of course, the 5-star freshman, Jarris Walker, he didn't get into double figures, and Houston still won by 20. And then after the game, Marcus Sasser, Tremont Mark, and Jamal Shedd were adamant that there's still a lot of room, they feel like, for the offense to grow, because when you look at the starting lineup, it's basically a whole new 5 from a season ago. Jamal Shedd's the returning starter. Obviously, a position he was kind of forced into due to the injuries. Tremont Mark and Marcus Sasser, they had their seasons cut short a season ago due to their respective injuries. Juwan Roberts, he was a role player coming off the bench behind Josh Carlton and Fabian White, so he's had to step in to some new shoes as the starter. And then, of course, Jarris Walker, he's a freshman, so not only has he had to adjust to the college level, the college speed, but of course they're still learning each other. And that's something that Marcus Sasser said. They're still figuring out how to gel, which from a Houston perspective is exciting, and from an opposition perspective is terrifying because now they're averaging 76 points a game. Their defense has been stellar the entire season. They're first in the country at, I believe it's just under 53 points a game they're holding their opponents. So if they continue to improve offensively and they gel, like Marcus Sasser said, I mean, there's not really how do you guard on a night if Jarris Walker, Marcus Sasser, Jamal Shedd, and Tremont Mark are all going. Juwan Roberts as well. He's shown that Houston can go to him in the post, and he has hook shots. He's got a couple good post moves that can give Houston that added layer. you can't guard all 5 players on the court at the same time, and it's really terrifying if you're looking at it from an opposition perspective.
Kennetra, I don't want to get your perspective, and that's one reason why we have Willie Gibson on as well with us to get an outside Houston point of view. Do you hear, is there any discussion, I mean, especially with Houston set to join the Big 12 in July, has there been discussion about Kelvin Sampson, the Cougs, the job he's done, the team, or anything like that so far at all?
None. No. I think just because of, I mean, with no disrespect, I mean, Houston's number 1 in the country. KU was number 2 before playing K-State. But the fact that the strength and the depth of the Big 12 this season, if you look at, I think ESPN put out rankings of the top 10 remaining strength of schedule for the rest of the season. Every Big 12 team is in that top 10.
Yeah.
So it's every night is just, it's a battle. And that's something that Bill Self said, is that they can't even look at the rest of the season. If you just look at kind of a 2-week span, you play, you battle to the end and you play Iowa State. And then you turn around 2 days later, 3 days later, and then you go to K-State and play, which K-State was 13th at the time. Come back from there, and then you come home on Saturday and you play a ranked TCU team, which just lost last night on the road to West Virginia. After that,
who was winless in conference play.
Exactly. So that tells you right there what this conference is about. So after the TCU game, after you play a ranked Iowa State, ranked Iowa State, ranked K-State, ranked TCU. Oh wait, you turn around big Monday and go to Baylor. And then you finish that week by what? Going to Lexington to play Kentucky. And then you come home and you play K-State again. So like that stretch of just 6 to 7 games right there has all of KU's focus. And so, they're not trying to disregard other teams nationally, but they have to look at themselves and look at this conference and what they have to face before they can even worry about who they could potentially match up against in the NCAA tournament in March.
See, and Andy, I'm going to get your thoughts on this, because there's a difference between Kennetra covering KU in the Big 12 and us covering the Cougs in the American. No, I mean, well, it is, I guess it is shade to Temple, UCF, USF, Memphis. Those teams are not KU, Iowa State, Baylor, Oklahoma State, etc. So that's why we are looking forward to the Big 12. Okay, you're already in the Big 12, Kennetra. You're the team you cover. So we're like, yeah, well, because Andy, I think, tweeted out, last week or so, 2 weeks ago, how you were excited about, you were watching some Big 12 matchup on TV, and you're just like, man, just imagine this next year in Houston in the conference.
Yeah, it was TCU and Baylor, the game I was watching, which went down the wire, and it was a crazy outing. And like you said, like it's every night is a gauntlet. You're going to be faced with a tough opponent. Now, like you mentioned, Kris, Houston has gone through the top teams, like that battle against Tulane. Like Tulane was the second team in the American Athletic Conference heading into that matchup. They gave Houston a good challenge, but then towards the end of the second half, Houston was able to pull away because they just had more weapons. Something that Tulane head coach Ron Hunter mentioned. Like, that was a game where he couldn't do a lot of substitutions because he knew he had to ride his starting 5, because if he went to his bench too much, like they don't have enough depth to be able to match up with Houston, which is what he said he was going to use his timeouts to give his starters rest, because he didn't have the luxury to sub them out, which again, it's the night and day difference from where Houston is and what they're going to face next season in the Big 12.
And with that, though, I'm going to fit in 2 more spots here on the lunch break. And this one is from a man who I got to get on this show. AJ, he acknowledged he fell on the sword because he did not get Cole on the show in December. So I guess I have to do it myself. So Cole, if you're watching, get ready, man, because you will be on this show on the lunch break. Here we are, the lunch break, Throwback Thursday on BSU Network. We'll be back in about a minute.
If you're looking for a sports program that gives you the flavor.
Washington Commanders? Really?
This whole thing stinks to high heaven.
That pulls no punches.
Thuggish act by a thuggish actor.
That gives you some humor.
Praise everything LeBron does and never criticize it.
If you want a show that gives you good times, then this is that show. BS3 Network proudly presents.
I am Cole Johnson, and welcome to
Cole Sports with a Z. Every Friday on Patreon and every Saturday on YouTube, Spreaker, and all other outlets.
Welcome back to Throwback Thursday on the lunch break, powered by JM&E and also the BS3 Network. If you have a Roku streaming device, just download BS3 TV. If not, go to bs3network.com. I'm Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review. Co-hosting with me is Kennetra Pulliams from Big 12 Now and ESPN Plus, and all those great things as well. She knows her sports. Thank you, Kennetra, for taking time to join me as well as a co-host. And Yanez from Gallery Sports. And joining us now, Willie Gibson from the Ohio State University. Will knows, also a member of the Folks Talking Sports podcast. Brother Gibson, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. How about yourself? How's everyone?
Good day.
Doing well. And it's weird. Andy noticed Will's audio sounds fine. Folks Talking Sports. No. On Sundays, it's like an issue sometimes. It's just it's weird. Glitches.
conspiracy. I'll just say that.
It could be a Cougar thing. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, you said that. I didn't say that.
Kennetra and her Big 12 expertise is balancing everything out. So we got Miss Big 12 and Mr. Big 10 joining two fellas who cover the American for a few more months. So, we'll get to the big time in a few months. But until then, we're just looking at the ivory tower that y'all sit in and observing how things are, from afar.
Cut it out.
Mr. Gibson,
Yes,
I want to
sir.
ask you first, and then get Andy and Kennetra's thoughts on this. Did y'all watch or seen the clip of Jabari Smith Jr. and LeBron James?
I did.
No.
I did.
First quarter, Jabari, during the game, I don't know why he did this during the game, but during the game, he said to LeBron, "You play with my dad. You played against my dad in, I think, LeBron's first game, right?"
Yep.
Will?
Yeah.
Yep. And Jabari Jr. said, "Now, does it make you feel old?" And when I saw the clip, I'm like, young fella, do you not know not to tug on Superman's cape?
Yeah.
Put some respect on his name.
Because that was first quarter, and LeBron was nice. He's like, "Why would you say that to me now?" Something like that. What do you say, Will? Something.
Yeah, it was that. Why would you say it to me? Yeah.
And then LeBron went to put in, what was it? 40 what?
No, it was 48 against Houston.
48 against the Rockets.
But I think it was only 32 maybe that night.
I mean, he just went, it's like, young fella, I still have game, and some of his points were directly against Jabari Smith Jr., But anyway, just wanted you to know, don't do that during the game. That's what pregame is for. Go up to LeBron, I'm a rookie in the league, blah, 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 blah. My dad played against you when you were a rookie, and leave it at that.
Yeah.
Right.
But during the game, don't you feel old?
Season high 48.
No, I mean, because that's an instance to where Jabari could only hope to have the talent level or the longevity of career that LeBron is experiencing. Like, come on, guy. Like, I think he was raised better than that, but maybe he was just feeling himself and he wanted to be brash and just like, hey, ha, 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 he, look at me. I'm so witty.
And I'm not sure if this is factual, but someone tweeted in a thread I saw that his dad did not even play in that game. He was
wow.
He was a DNP CD.
Come on now.
So I was like, well, I guess his dad told him something that wasn't true because
take one for the team.
He didn't even play in the game. But anyway, Mr. Gibson.
Yes, sir.
You have a contrast there in basketball at your alma mater. Women's team was ranked second.
Yes.
And the men's team isn't.
No.
I'm being kind.
Please.
Because they've lost, 5 in a row now?
5 in a row. 2 and 5 in the conference.
Is it time for a new coach?
Well, interesting you say that because, 2 weeks ago when Chris Beard was fired at Texas, there was a list of potential head coaches. It was interesting that everyone here that as you go down the list, and next to the last name on the list was Chris Holtzman. It's like, Chris Holtzman, like, is that St. Mary's Chris Holtzman? Or is that Canisius Chris Holtzman? Surely they're not talking about Ohio State Chris Holtzman. Yes, his name was on the list of potential coaches that Texas should consider. And to a person here, it was like, no. And Chris is a great guy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But, I mean, 2 and 5 in the conference, 5 now. And to this point, the largest margin of victory is 7. It's a 2-point loss, a 7-point loss, a 3-point loss, a 4-point loss in overtime, and last night a 3-point loss. So, I mean, moral victory's close, I guess, but yeah, that was interesting to hear. He was on the list of potential coaching candidates for Texas.
So because the Buckeyes have been right there to win the game, what is it that isn't getting done that has prevented them from overcoming those small margin victories?
Lack of offensive philosophy. No one knows what the offensive philosophy of this team is, and it's mid-January. They're basically just playing.
So who's the leader? Who's the bring everybody together? Here's how you execute end of game situations.
Correct. If I had to say,
that's the problem, Will.
And please, I don't. My flip is not intentional. It's if I had to say one person, it would probably 2. They're freshmen. Freshman Bryce Sensabaugh and freshman Bruce Thornton. Those are the 2. But again, they're freshmen. Mind you, they also start a 6th-year senior. But the freshmen, if I had to say, would be the people to look to in game time situations.
Yeah. And then and it's not just isolated to Ohio State, but you look at all freshmen trying to navigate their role in their space because you want to be deferential to guys who have been in the program, but you also want to be assertive and take control, but you don't want to rub people the wrong way. So where do you kind of fit in?
Yep.
As the new guy?
And that was it. And that was it for Bryce Sensabaugh until they played North Carolina. Mm-hmm. He had 24 and 10 against North Carolina and lost in overtime. Mm-hmm. And from that point on, he's like, look, I'm going for mine. He's been Big Ten Freshman of the Week 3 straight weeks since then. But it took that game for him to say he knew he could do it.
Right.
But I think to him on that stage, it was like, hey, all right, I've waited long enough.
Yeah.
We're going to take this final break here and then come back probably with another 15 minutes to close out the show here on the lunch break on Throwback Thursday, powered by JM&E on the BS3 Network. I like this commercial.
Are you looking for something to do on your lunch break? Well, there's a show on the BS3 Network that has only 4 words to say to you.
We ready. We ready. We ready for y'all. We
Lunch Break with AJ, powered by JM&E. Live weekdays at noon Central.
Thanks very much to AJ Jones. Well, not great. Thanks for him giving us the opportunity to co-host the show, The Lunch Break, here on Throwback Thursdays. I'm Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review. Co-hosting with me is Kennetra Pulliams from Big 12 Now on ESPN Plus, and Yanez from Gallery Sports, and Willie Gibson from Will Knows. How can folks find you on social media? Get to that first.
Me, Willie?
Yes,
you can find me on social media at Will Gibson7, Twitter and Instagram. Will Knows on Facebook.
The Arlington Heights Bears. Is that what they're going to be called?
If they write the check, it could very well be. It could very well be.
So what are your thoughts? Yeah, Kennetra, Andy, Chicago Bears moving to Arlington Heights seems to be gaining more and more steam. They won't change the name from Chicago to Arlington Heights, but still they're going to move there. So just your thoughts on moving from Chicago, Kennetra to Arlington Heights, and I think we'll play in a dome stadium. Is that one of the discussions?
I believe it is a dome, multi-use stadium.
Hey, like with those Chicago winters, I don't think anybody will complain about the dorm. Now, yeah, they're the traditionalists who want to preserve the history, but you got to evolve with the times. And dome, and you get the first pick in the draft, and so I'm sure there's a lot of energy and excitement about the future. It's just a matter of what you do with it.
Andy, do you think the Bears will or should trade the first pick in the draft?
It depends what's the package they can get into. I think it's an interesting position considering, and Will could probably touch on this more, whether it helps or hurts them that both C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young declared for the draft. I know there was some chatter because C.J. Stroud delayed in declaring for the draft. I don't know if there was ever any doubt that that's what he was going to do. But the Bears are in an interesting position where they don't necessarily need to take a quarterback with that number one overall pick, so they can leverage it, especially with a lot of needy teams. I don't know if the Texans would be one of those teams with them being I know they're a quarterback needy team, but I don't know if they'd be the ones that would want to trade for the number one pick when they have number two. No, I agree. They do need a quarterback. But, the Indianapolis Colts, one of the teams that have been searching for their quarterback since Andrew Luck retired. And the list goes on and on and on with numerous teams that could continue to have that potential bidding war. Maybe the Las Vegas Raiders, you could throw them in the mix too. They could look to add for a quarterback. So I think it's fair, depending on doing their due diligence and how far they would have to go back in the draft and potentially what that could look like. But if they're not taking a quarterback, and maybe if they feel comfortable that their number one guy will still be on the board, depending on how far back they trade back, I think that's certainly something that they have to do their due diligence and at least create a bidding war, especially, like I said, there's a lot of these teams that are quarterback needy. And the team that really sticks to my mind is the Colts, because the Texans are at number two. So you'd imagine that they probably will take a quarterback with that number two overall pick if they don't move.
Kennetra, what say you?
Yeah, no, I think that is. They have the Bears have the leverage. You can, you sit there and you allow other teams to come to you, and it's like, okay, how badly do you want what we have? And then you call the shots, and you take what best positions you kind of for the future, immediately, and then long term, because you look at free agency, where does Aaron Rodgers end up next year? Where does Tom Brady, if he decides, is it on a team or is it in the broadcast booth? Derek Carr. So there's a lot of veteran quarterbacks who are available, and then as well as those But I think it's really tough to come in immediately from the college ranks and make that jump to the NFL and to be a winner. So it'll be fun.
Well, a different question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Of the teams that have top 5 draft pick, are any of them a veteran quarterback away from going to the playoffs?
That's interesting. Seattle has 5 in the trade with Denver, so if they re-sign Geno, they're right there. But taking Seattle out of it, I hate to do this. No, because Chicago, no. Houston, no. Arizona, no. Indianapolis, no. So in the top 5, no. No one's a quarterback away.
Okay, so what do you guys think Tom Brady will do? Will do, not should do, will do.
Oh, he'll be in Las Vegas with Josh McDaniel. He shouldn't, but he'll be in Las Vegas with Josh McDaniels.
Katrina, do you agree with that? Do you think he'll retire?
Yeah. I he is still a good quarterback. Is he as exceptional as he was? No. Father Time is undefeated.
Correct. Agreed.
So I don't know if he thinks the fountain of youth is in Vegas. Is he going to gamble on getting, was it one more year? And do you tarnish your legacy if it doesn't work out in Vegas? You know, does that then? I mean, what if he goes back to the AFC East and goes to the Jets?
What do you think, Andy? What do you think Tom will do?
I mean, let me throw in another team, and I would think with how the season has gone and what they've been able to do, it's a long shot. But what about the San Francisco 49ers? They have a lot of weapons on offense. They have an elite running game where that's something that Tom Brady excels in. We know that their defense has been dominant through the course of this season, through the course of the past 2 seasons. Now, won't sure if the defensive coordinator will still be DeMeco Ryans. It probably won't be going forward. But that's a situation where, again, I mean, Brock Purdy has been able to step in there and fill the shoes, but we'll see how their season ends in the postseason run. Jimmy Garoppolo will not be returning to the San Francisco 49ers. Trey Lance is in an interesting situation because the 49ers never really got to see what it would have looked like had he been leading the reins of that offense. But if Tom Brady wants to go to San Francisco and thinks they would make it work, I think it'd be interesting to see what the 49ers management organization would do, especially with the way how their postseason ends. Like, say the bottom falls out and Brock Purdy has a bad game and that's how they get eliminated in the postseason. Maybe you throw Tom Brady in the mix, because that from an offensive standpoint, that's the perfect situation for Brady. He can just fit right in. He has all these weapons across the board at all the different skills positions: receiver, tight end, running backs. Like I said, they have a stellar defense. That's the dream scenario for them. How realistic that is, I'm not sure.
In these final moments of the lunch break here, Throwback Thursday on the lunch break, powered by JM&E, we're going back full circle toward the beginning of the show. The delay in the Big 12 football schedule being released should have been first, not should have been, but said November, then December, then January 17th, blah, 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 blah. It's past January 17th. The three of us believe the delay is because of negotiations between the conference, Texas, and Oklahoma. Different question. This for everybody. What do you think will be the agreement that the conference comes to with Texas and OU for them to leave early to go to the SEC?
2 commas and several zeros.
How many? What is the whole numbers in front of those zeros?
Yeah, therein lies the question. It's a lot. I mean, it's what, 70 million was the TV share? Did I hear that number right somewhere?
I don't.
The grant of
I'm not
rights is
sure.
like 80 million.
80 million. Okay.
80 to 90 million. Because like 45 per, something like that.
Okay. So
Miss Big 12, help us.
I'm not sure of. That's why I majored in journalism and not math or accounting. So I'm not sure what the actual terms were, but I still think, yeah, sure. The Sooners and the Longhorns, yeah, they want to leave early, but at the same time, they're not hurting for money. They're still, they're still getting paid either way. I mean, and their share is still larger than their current Big 12 partners. So it's I think they have to come to an amicable agreement about, okay, hey, we'll reduce your buyout or your buyout penalty. And it's, something that the Texas and OU contingent can live with. And then they're like, all right, deuces. And they'll bounce.
These last 2-3 minutes here. Question for you, Kennetra. Big 12 now and ESPN Plus.
Mm-hmm.
Do all member schools have their own communication studio departments?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, each one looks different, because, K-State has one, but it's mostly, K-State.HD to TV, so everyone looks different. I can't, I haven't seen everyone else's, I've seen West Virginia's kind of pregame show, what they do. I know, OU has Sooner Sports.
Mm-hmm.
Texas, of course, has, Longhorn Network. I think, of course, that's the largest one, in partnership with ESPN to have kind of like their own channel. I'm not sure what Iowa State has in place. So.
And I'm going to put this on the screen to make fun of Andy, but to remind everyone as well. This comment from Tony M. Stand with Andy. Cougs football versus the Longhorns. Kennetra, in case you had not heard, on our most recent episode of Folks Talking Sports, Andy Yanez guaranteed that the Houston Cougars football team will beat Texas in 2023. Guaranteed.
Regardless
right,
of where the game's played?
It's going to be
if the game is played in Houston.
If it's in Houston.
Okay.
Guaranteed. Right, Andy?
Yes, sir. I guaranteed it, and I stand by it. They're going to not only win against the Texans Longhorns, but they're going to do so where I will be drinking a Red Bull and the Let's Rage Cougs postgame show because I guarantee it right now. Guarantee it.
Wow. Not the Red Bull. Wow.
But he didn't say vodka. He just said Red Bull.
No, Red Bull. We have to keep it PG because we still have to do a show during it.
It's lunchtime.
That'd be a fun show.
It's not happy hour.
That'd be a fun show. That'd be a fun Folks Talking Sports or Let's Rage Cougs. Andy with Red Bull and vodka. That'd be something. All right. Thank you, family, to each of you for taking time out of your day to join me here on the lunch break on Throwback Thursday, powered by JM&E on BS3 Network. Ladies first, Kennetra Pulliams, how can people find you on social media?
At K Pulliams on Twitter. That's where you can find me.
And Yanez, how about you, sir?
Yes, people can find me on Twitter at @Giannis_5. I'll have a new article for GallerySports.com coming out later today, focusing on how the Houston Cougars offense feels like they still have a lot of room to grow. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, in regarding to the starting lineup feels, there's still a lot of room for them to gel because they're still learning as the season progresses, heading into game number 20 this Sunday against Temple.
Oh, real quick, Will.
Yes, sir.
Notice the cap Andy's wearing?
Hey, I heard. I need a haircut too. I almost wore mine. I need a haircut too, man. But I'm not big time getting called out by coaches and
big time.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, coach even tossed me out there. About
he said we should share hair. So,
and I was like, he doesn't want that, coach. He doesn't want my hair. None at all. Willie Gibson, how can folks find you on social media?
Thank you. So you can find me at WillGibson7 on Twitter as well as Instagram.
Tony M., thank you very much. You are a dedicated supporter of my work. Follow me on the Houston Roundball Review on YouTube. I appreciate you, Tony. Thank you as always. Thank you to everyone for tuning in to the lunch break on Twitter and Facebook and I think Twitch. he's everywhere. And of course, on the BS3 network, I'm Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review. Been around since 1994. You can catch the Houston Roundball Review on HoustonRoundballReview.com, Houston Roundball Review on Instagram, Houston Roundball Review on YouTube, and for the time being, still on TikTok. But the Houston Roundball Review.
Go ahead.
Got it?
Go
Got
ahead.
it, Will? Local name, global perspective. AJ Jones, get well, my man. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to co-host the show here. Get well. He was so under the weather, he did not have a chance to join me and other colleagues yesterday at the tip-off luncheon for the Final Four, the men's Final Four in Houston. But get well, AJ. He's, I think, aiming for hopefully Monday. We'll be back feeling better. But who knows? If not, we might see our faces here again next Thursday on lunch break. We'll have a guest, Holly Kercherson from the Houston Local Organized Committee will be joining us next Thursday on lunch break here on the BS3 Network. Wrapping up the show, going to close it out with Sybil Wilkes. Hey, Sybil.
Sybil Wilkes with what you need to know. Today is Thursday, January 19th, 2023. Or you know what it really is. Happy Friday Eve, everyone. Number 1, House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy is making good on agreements made to secure the votes to make him Speaker of the House. The 20 or so right-wing Republicans stood firm against McCarthy in the early rounds of the Speaker vote, and it's paid off handsomely with powerful committee assignments. Congress members Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar returned to their previous committee assignments from last term. Both were named to the House Homeland Security Committee. As expected after the November midterm elections, Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan will chair the Judiciary Committee. The conservative representative has announced the committee's first investigation, President Biden's handling of classified documents. Number 2, the Biden administration has released a fact sheet detailing their efforts to support community schools. Community schools meet the unique needs of the neighborhoods they serve by leveraging the local nonprofit, private sector, and public partnerships to bring wraparound services into school buildings such as mental health support, dental services, and assistance with shelter and nutrition. In the most recent bipartisan funding bill, the president secured $150 million for the full-service community schools program. This means the program is twice as large as last year and 5 times as large as when President Biden came into office. Number 3, the men's basketball game between Iowa and the Northwestern Wildcats, scheduled for Wednesday in Iowa, not played due to COVID-19 health and safety protocols within the Northwestern University program. The two schools will work with the Big Ten to reschedule the game. Number 4, Devonna Walker, a 29-year-old black woman, was fatally stabbed by a white male neighbor in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, after being called the N-word. Cell phone video captured Walker arguing with a white female neighbor in front of an apartment building. Then a man opening the front door and saying, "Please, just get inside." The woman ignored the man and continued yelling at Walker as she held her dog on a leash on the front lawn. Walker then pushed the woman down in front of the doorway. Then the man immediately appeared to stab Walker. The man and the woman were detained by police but later released. Iowa law says a person is justified in the use of reasonable force when the person reasonably believes that such force is necessary to defend oneself or another form of any actual or imminent use of unlawful force. Number 5, it's Miss Astrology Day, and when it comes to astrology, Aries season is the new year, but this year, Aquarius season is bringing with it the energy to do all the things we're planning on doing in 2023. From January 22nd all the way until late April, all the planets in the solar system will be moving in a direct motion. This is so supportive of us achieving, connecting, learning, implementing, and more. Let's get busy. Here's your daily inspiration from Yogi's Jewels. The good news is, if you are here, you have a chance to be happy. All right. Join me today live on YouTube and Facebook at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central as we discuss the stars with Ms. Astrology and our mental health and wellness contributor, Aprilette Russell. And we will discuss the stars, as I said, and today's top headlines and more. To subscribe to my free daily What You Need to Know newsletter, please visit SybilWilkes.com. Be informed, be empowered.